What's going on, YouTube? How y'all doing this evening? Sorry that I have not been giving y'all any videos. It's been a hectic week for me. Had a lot of personal stuff going on, work related. So I'm about to jump right into it. So there was a story that has been going around in my city, in my area actually, for the past couple of months. Didn't really touch too much base on it because usually when you hear stories like this, you try to have a positive outlook on what's going on. But unfortunately, in today's times, with the quarantine, everything we got going on, it seems like that this is the time now where people can actually open their eyes up, hopefully, and see that there is an issue going on. So, the story is about a young man named Ahmaud Arbery, who was 25 years old from Brunswick, Georgia. If you don't know where Brunswick, Georgia is, it is a location that is about 65 miles from Savannah, Georgia, going south. Okay, and it's about 75 miles from Jacksonville, Florida. It is a area with about 130,000 people metropolitan wise. Actual citizens that reside in the area of the actual city of Brunswick, Georgia, give or take, you're looking at about 45,000 people. Okay, now 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery, like I said before, who loved to run, was a former high school football player and stayed out in his class at that time when he was going to high school. And he believed in fitness and staying fit. His friends said that it was not unusual to see him running around the outskirts of the small coastal Georgia city near where he lived. But on a Sunday afternoon in February, Mr. Arbery, doing his usual routine, running through a suburb neighborhood of ranch houses and moss draped oaks, he passed a man standing in his front yard, who later told the police that Mr. Arbery looked like the suspect in a string of break-ins. According to the police report, the man that was standing in that yard was Gregory McMichael. And he called out to his son, Travis McMichael, who was 34, the senior of the McMichaels. Gregory McMichael is 64. So they grabbed their weapons, a 357 Magnum revolver, which Gregory McMichael had in his hand, and his son had a shotgun. They jumped into a truck and they began to follow Mr. Avery. As they following Mr. Arbery, excuse me, they were screaming, "Stop, stop." That's what they shouted at him. "We want to talk to you." Moments later, and when they did finally caught up with this young man after successfully trying to cut him off, and they didn't cut him off for those many multiple paths and times away from their property. Again, keyword, away from their property. Moments later, they got into a struggle over the shotgun that the young Travis McMichael 34 had in his hand, pointing at Mr. Avery. And he was killed. He was shot, they said, at least twice, based upon the police reports have released. So you're thinking in your mind, okay, this is a clear-cut case. Young man running in the neighborhood, two vigilantes with a shotgun and a 357 Magnum, chase them out of off their property, didn't call the cops, didn't do any of the sort, shoot this man probably roughly about a block and a half from their home. Yeah, they getting charged with something, right? They going to jail. Guess what? As of February 23rd, no one has been charged or even arrested in the connection of this young man's life. And it gets even worse. The case has received little attention beyond Brunswick, okay? But it has raised questions in that community about racial profiling. Because Mr. Arbery was black. and the father and the son are white, and about the interpretation of the state self-defense law. Now, the Reverend John Davis Perry II, the president of the Brunswick chapter of the NAACP, has called the shooting troubling, and Mr. Arbery's friends and family have worried that the case, similar to others, have prompted nationwide outrage, might deeply disappear in their deep South community because social distancing restrictions amid the coronavirus outbreak has made it difficult for them to gather in protest. We can't do anything because of this corona stuff, said Wanda Cooper, which is Mr. Arbery's mother. We thought about walking out where the shooting occurred, but doing a little march, but we can't be out right now. Mr. Arbery was killed 3 days before the anniversary of the 2012 killing of Trayvon Martin, unarmed black African American teenager. Y'all know about that story, where he was unarmed and he was confronted by the neighborhood watch, old George Zimmerman, excuse me, who helped ignite the Black Lives Matter movement. But as according to documents that's been obtained by a lot of these papers that's writing about this, especially the New York Times, a prosecutor who had the case for a few weeks told the police that the pursuers had acted within the right of Georgia citizens' arrest statute, and that Travis McMichael, who held the shotgun, had acted out of self-defense. The police report does not mention whether Mr. Arbery was in possession of a weapon. Attempts to reach Gregory McMichael, a retired investigator in the district attorney's office, was unsuccessful in brief phone conversation. Travis McMichael, who runs a company that gives custom boat tours, he declined to comment, citing the continuing investigation. The prosecutor who wrote the letter, George E. Barnhill, the district attorney for Georgia's Waycross Judicial Circuit, recused himself from the case this month after Mr. Arbery's family complained that he had a conflict of interest. A prosecutor from another county is now in charge and will determine whether the case should be presented to a grand jury. In and around Brunswick, activists and allies of Mr. Arbery's family are doing what they can to organize online. They have started a Facebook page and have coordinated a pressure campaign, emailing law enforcement officials in the local newspapers that are hashtags irunwithmaud, justice for Ahmaud, and t-shirts have been printed, but few people are on the streets to see their message. There are a lot of people absolutely ready to protest, said Jason Vaughn, a football coach at the Brunswick High School who coached Mr. Arbery, who was an outside linebacker. But because of social distancing and being safe, we have to watch what's going on with the coronavirus. Now, Mr. Arbery was killed in a community called Satilla Shores. It's a quiet middle class little area. It's about 15 minutes from downtown Brunswick and short jog from Mr. Arbery's neighborhood. His friends and family believe that Mr. Arbery, who was wearing a white t-shirt, he had some khaki shorts, a Nike shoe, sneakers, and a bandana when he was killed, had been out exercising. Everybody in the community know he runs, said Mr. Vaughn, who said he saw Mr. Arbery jogging on the streets a few months ago. Mr. Vaughn said that he himself had raised suspicions about jogging through his own neighborhood in the suburbs of Brunswick, recalling a recent instance in which a white woman followed him in a van. But others contend that Mr. Arbery was up to no good. On the day of the shooting, apparently moments before the chase, a neighbor in Satilla Shores called 911 telling us that a black man in a white t-shirt was inside a house that was under construction and only partially closed in. And he's running right now, the man told the dispatcher. There he goes right now. In his letter to the police, Mr. Barnhill, the prosecutor, noted that Mr. Arbery had a criminal past. Now, court records showed that Mr. Arbery was convicted of shoplifting and violating probation in 2018. 5 years earlier, according to the Brunswick News, he was indicted on charges that he took a handgun to high school during a basketball game. Even still, if Mr. Arbery committed a property crime on the afternoon he was killed, activists and family members said it would not have warranted chase by armed neighbors. Incident was at least a case of overzealous citizens that wrongfully profiled the victim without cause. Mr. Perry wrote in the email, these men felt justified taking the law in their own hands. And Mr. Cooper, Mr. Arbery's mother, Miss Cooper, Mr. Arbery's mother said she believed the man had judged her son by his skin color, and she does not believe he committed any crimes that day. If he had, she said, they would have been handled by the police. Now, Miss Cooper pushed for Barnhill, a veteran prosecutor, to recuse himself from that case and learned that his son works in the Brunswick District Attorney's Office, which had previously employed Gregory McMichael, which is, again, the father of Travis McMichael that supposedly, that is, allegedly pulled the trigger. Brunswick District Attorney Jackie Johnson recused herself earlier on also because Mr. McMichael had worked in her office. I ain't even going to read the story any further because I'm going to tell y'all like it is just by reading this story that first and foremost, this is what we as African American citizens in the US of A experience every time. This is what we experience. This is what we go through. The men that had that gun that day, Gregory McMichael, Travis McMichael, they had one thing in their mind, and that was to kill them a ninja. I'm just going to be 3,000 about it. They wasn't going to let the police handle it. They wasn't going to follow the laws of the land. They were going to be the judge, the jury, the executioner. Now, what's so sad about this situation is that living in the South in the good old boy circle like this, everybody's going to watch everybody and look out for everybody in that circle. And because of this, this is going to be an uphill battle for us to fight justice. If you don't believe me, look at what recently happened in the same area, the county next to this, Camden County, where the young black man was killed unarmed by the police. Okay, a police officer. They went to trial, and the police officer only got 5 years of probation. He didn't even see a jail cell, won't even get close to one. 5 years probation. They ain't even filed charges yet. They're not going to file charges because they want this to be a clean cut, dry case. And then what even more disturbing is that every time that we as African American people, especially black males, get caught up in this situation, everybody wants to use what we did in the past. Well, in the past, he did this. He got arrested for shoplifting. He brought a gun to school. That has nothing to do with the Carlson Tea of China. That was in his past. Let's look at his present. If he was presently threatened, call the cops. Let them handle it. You want to follow him so bad, should have followed him at a distance. Call the cops. Let them handle it. But I guarantee you, if the shoe was on the other foot, if this was a white male running the neighborhood, there was two black males following him and would have shot him, even though these laws they said with Georgia, they was within the right of self-defense laws, we would be in jail. And I know that's a lie because there are many cases that I've heard and seen of people running after someone who has came in their house blatantly trying to hurt them, and they follow them outside of their property in Georgia and have shot that person. And guess what? They go to jail. They don't even look at that law as self-defense. They don't. This is a classic case of this is an ex-investigator that worked for the district attorney. He's got a status in the community, and they don't want this guy to go to jail, especially over a average working class normal African American male. And what is even sad when they say in the story about he was a burglary suspect, that come to find out he didn't even fit the description of the home video they claim that they saw. And then they said this video that they made, they said, well, he attacked us first. Well, what do you expect? If you coming after a human being with a shotgun and a 357 Magnum, I'm quite sure they had it pointed out. What you gonna do? You gonna defend yourself. That's just common damn sense. So why I made this video, because I want it to be shared so people understand that I am with this family. Because this unarmed of killing innocent African American people gotta stop. It's gotta stop. You know, I sit here all the time by a YouTuber, and I see these videos of cops and citizens and all these other ones. They hold people and put them in, hold them without killing them, restrain them without killing them, you know, do all this stuff without killing nobody. Example given, white guy in the neighborhood, daughter was being threatened by another white male in the neighborhood, sexually harassed, basically, excuse me. He went, put the man on the ground, physically restrained him, had his wife and family members call the cops, let the cops handle it. I seen about 4 months ago a sheriff in West Virginia had a naked man running around here with a knife stabbing people. He was stabbing people now. And they were able, after he done stabbed about 2 or 3 officers in about 3 different locations, wrap him up, take him to jail without killing or firing a gun. So that's what confuses me. If we can do that with all these other Caucasian races, and they can be safely taken care of and be handled by the police and not get shot at on mostly on a regular basis, why can't we as African Americans get the same treatment and same choices? You know what they say, like Tupac always said, he said, I can't help it that the color of my skin is already considered a sin. And this is the times we face. This is the times we face. If y'all want any more information, please follow my link. I'm going to put a link for y'all on the Facebook page for this family. I've already done said in my mind, any donations, anything I get off this video, I'm donating it to the Maud family, because they definitely going to need all the support as they can. Also, too, I'm also going to um, follow up on this story, keep y'all on tabs on what's going on. Again, this story is just a very dark reminder of that this is the world we live in. That no matter how hard we fight, no matter how hard we try, you know, we still got a long way to go before we'll ever see equality all across the board. Also, too, follow me on Twitter, J News Reviews. Follow me on Instagram, I fuck with Joe. Until then, y'all stay safe out there.